Hello, everyone. Welcome to another stream. Today, I started working on the responsive design of our CMS that I'm working on. Meanwhile, I made some modifications. There are quite a few things that I need to address, but I thought of started working on the mobile first design pattern. Initially, when I started designing this front end of our site, it was purely focused on just the layout, but it's about time we should start focusing on the responsive design. And since it's going to be mobile first, so we would have to design for the mobile displays first, and then as we move forward, we will be focusing on the desktop screens and larger screens. So for responsiveness, I got three different breaking points. As you can see, one is for smaller screens, that's starting from 0 to maximum 480 pixel. And for medium sized screens, that'll be 480 to up until 768. For larger screens or for desktop screens, we should be taking 768 and upwards. Bear in mind though, the maximum size of our window or of our site is 1200 pixel that I predefined already on my CSS over here. As you can see, the maximum width of our content not going to be more than 1200 pixel. So I'm not all that too worried about larger screens at this point. So I'll be working on screen size smaller than 480 first. Then as we move forward, we'll be working on tablet screen or tablet size screens, and then for larger iPad or desktop size screens. So let's get it started. One important point that I wanted to note over here is that a big chunk of our CSS goes on the front page of our site. You are looking at our live site or my live site, and you can see most of the designs are pretty much okay. There were a little polishing is necessary, but for the time being, I think I will start because the way it was designed initially, the production site that you are looking at, was entirely the desktop screen. But later on, I thought, well, nowadays, since people are using mostly mobile devices, I think we should prioritize that one as well. So that is the whole idea. And you will see me working on mostly on the home page first, make sure it is compatible with the smaller screens and iPad and similar tablet size screens. And then as we move forward, we will focus on desktop size screens, which is not the utmost priority at this point because we already have the design over here. I'm just going to move this design moving forward to inside our media query over here. But for today, I will mostly focus on this one and this one, mostly on smaller screen and medium size screen. So let's get it started. This seems a bit confusing. For some reason, the content inside thought columns are not being visible, which is kind of little worrisome for me because I'm not quite sure why exactly it's not being visible, even though the column after is visible. So, this is going to be a bit tricky, but I will see what I can do. So one of the fundamental mistakes that we did, or I did, while designing for the desktop window, we added a lot of whole bunch of um, CSS attributes that it's not necessary for mobile screen because the content is basically taking the entire width of the screen. Now, if you remove or increase the screen size to let's say 900 pixel, that's where you see these CSS attributes or CSS declarations becomes handy. But while you are looking at a mobile screen, so let's say below 470 pixel, that's not needed anymore. So I'm basically commenting out those section and hopefully we will reuse them when we are looking at a larger screens. So for the time being, I think these things just gotta go off and then bring them back when we are looking at larger screens. So that's the thing that we gotta do. Let's do it. Since some of the widgets does not have content, let's say for an example, the product section or over here the music section, even though you see no post found, that it still does not look good when you do not have any content over here. Okay, so this is something that we would have to just bear in mind as we are moving forward. All we have to do is just add those additional CSS that we declared when we had the desktop view. And that should be all that we need to do. Now notice that there is a vertical dark gray line. These are the lines that's basically differentiating between different columns. Now over here you can see I declared that most of the columns are the common CSS column class, which is this one over here. Okay, so you can see this home call basically means all the different columns, and we also use different CSS classes like call movies, call musics, and books. Those are for those particular widget, but for regular columns, we did not need any other border apart from the one that we already defined over here. Okay, we need to have like 4 or 5 different lines. Just let me give it an example. So let's say the snippet section we have only one article. Let's put few more. Okay, so let's add this article as in a snippet. Then this one also as a snippet. Then this one also as a snippet. Now, since I added 3, 4 of them already, refresh the page. Now, if you go to the snippet section, that's where you see the differences. This border line at the bottom over here is much lighter than the border that we have for each column or each widgets that you are looking at. Well, we separated them with a column, but they're actually widgets. But internal borders for different list items or LA items, we have very light color border. We can change it if we want to, but when you have six, seven, or four, or five articles under products, similar are number of articles underneath snippets, and similar number of articles underneath tips, it wouldn't look that bad. Just like the way you can see over here, one, two, three, four. There are four article over here, four article for products, and four different article for tips. If you put them next to each other or underneath each other, it wouldn't look that bad. But let me see if I can show it to you over here on my production side. Okay, it doesn't show. Part of the reason is that because we have the flex item to be row. If we change it to column, see what I'm trying to say over here? You have four article underneath products, four article underneath snippets, and four article underneath tips. It doesn't look all that bad. So since I don't have that many articles on my development side, you are looking at no post found and only single article over here. But if you have the data over there populated on the dev side, it wouldn't look that bad. I think it'll be much simpler for a mobile screen, but I think once we go beyond 480 pixel, that's when it's gonna be a little more complicated because, okay, you see, now it's getting a little clumsy, cluttered all over the places. We would have to style them for tablet devices like iPad or larger mobile screens. We would have to style them for that one as well. But for the time being, I'm focusing on a smaller screen, which are smaller than 480 pixel, let's say 470. They should look pretty much like this. Notice there's a mistake over here. If you select or inspect this item, you can see there's an additional space is being taken over here underneath the, see the wrapper padding over here, the purple color padding over here. We should not have padding on the left and right hand side section, but we can have padding at the top and the bottom. So basically over here, the padding that you are looking at 10 pixel, it's supposed to be like this. Okay. Notice there is no purple color on the left and right now. This is where exactly it's supposed to be. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna just make some adjustment over here and then make it look like, okay, I think we can put it like this. Uh, Text align, it could be center. Yeah, I think this looks better. Also, the navigation and in the space between the navigation links at the top and the text, copyright text, seems like a little too much. Okay, I think we can get rid of the purple color at the top. I think we can get rid of that. So it's supposed to be like these 0, 0, 10 pixel 0. See, now we have only the purple color at the bottom. That's exactly what we need to put on food rights CSS class. So let me just copy this thing and I'm gonna put it on the over here. Okay, let's see what happens. Okay, so one important thing that you may have noticed that I actually added a small padding over here, item spacing over here. So that is causing this blue purple, I'm sorry, the purple color at the top and at the bottom. Part of the reason why I did this is because the footer section or the footer wrapper, this entire section that you are looking at with little radius at the top at the corner, the navigation item already has some spacing or padding at the top and bottom. You can see it over here. It shows the purple color. But the paragraph at the bottom does not have any padding. Excuse me. So if I do not add additional padding underneath the reserved word, it seems like the word is touching the bottom section or the white section at the end. So what I did instead, the footer wrapper would have some spacing at the top and a spacing at the bottom so that it doesn't look like the text is touching this borderline or the word reserved is touching the borderline. Now you also notice that because navigation has additional spacing of the purple line, it made more space over here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get rid of this padding declaration that we have so that the footer menu or this item does not have any padding at the top or at the bottom. We can keep it at the bottom, but we do not need the padding at the top because we already have 10 pixel spacing. Now, another important point, see over here, my declaration was item spacing. Item spacing shows 0.625 rem. Now, if we convert that one, 0.625, that's 10 pixel. Pretty much exactly what we wanted to do over here, this 10 pixel. So instead of pixel, I converted to RAM and then used it so that we doesn't have any hard-coded number, and we can use this one from over here, from this variable declared over here, item spacing, instead of putting in a hard-coded number so that I can change it on the variable. It should be applied to everywhere. Okay, so let's get rid of this space. I'm going to keep the purple line over here at the bottom section, okay? So that the link does not touch this copyright text over here. Let's keep some space over here, okay? So I'm gonna put padding, sorry, padding bottom. I forgot typing even. Okay, let's do it like this. Var item spacing. Okay, so what I'm doing here, instead of top and bottom padding, I'm just gonna keep the padding at the bottom, not the top. Let's refresh the page and see what's going on over here. Control F5, refresh the page. Let's go back. See, now we only have the purple line at the bottom, exactly as we wanted. Once again, we do not want to touch the copyright section text. Now for the copyright, we already have some white space underneath the reserve. See, the purple line at the bottom is basically keeping this space, so that should be fine. Now once the screen becomes bigger for larger screens like iPad and other devices, we will increase that one. Part of the reason why we did little spacing over here, you see these edges over here on this line. The spacing over here, I think if I'm not wrong, it's supposed to be something called like over here 1.25 rem. That's con SM margin. So if we convert that, 1.25, that's 20 pixel. That means we have 20 pixel of space on the left hand side over here at the top on the black line over here, and the black spacing over here. Both the side has 20 pixel of spacing, and we are maintaining this pattern all the way bottom to the footer section. Same over here. That black section at the top is basically the white section over here at the bottom, just the section has been separated. Another thing is that we did over here is that there isn't a space over here as well. So this is another spacing that we wanted to have, because once we go back to the larger screen, this spacing gonna get bigger. It's not going to be 20 pixel, it could be a little more. Even if we do have 20 pixel, there will be another 20 pixel of margin at the top. It's more like this one. Let me show you. Let's refresh the page over here. It's more like this one. You see this 20 pixel space over here and additional 20 pixel at the top. So in between this 40 pixel, there would be another line separating the content from the header section. Same thing goes or applies to the content over here you are looking at. There isn't a border line separating the content of the middle section, and then this another row there isn't a border line. These lines for the columns and the borders, as you can see, are a little darker than these lines over here. It's basically because these are list item content or links within a single block, and these are separate blocks. To separate the blocks, we have darker line, and to separate the contents within a block, we have lighter line so that it does not look too clumsy. I can give it a quick example just to show, just to prove my point, what exactly I'm trying to say over here. So let's say, let me close this. Now, see these lines over here? If it gets too dark, the separation lines, it will look like this one in the middle. And that wouldn't look good. It'll be like too many lines over here. And same goes for over here for the categories. Same thing goes for the news articles that I have over here, the listed items over here. So these are some of the reasons why we want to keep it, as light as possible. But also bear in mind these lines may or may not be visible to a certain type of a screen, because not all the screen or display viewport has that kind of clarity, or how do I say it? Like, let's say if you want to use LCD screen, you may not see these lines, or if your screen is not all that great, if it's an older CRT monitor, most probably you're not going to see these lines because those monitors or screens are not all that great. However, if you are browsing from an iPad or iPhone or modern smartphones, you will definitely see this because they have higher density, or which basically is known as nit, 800 nit or 600 nit, 300 nit, something like that. So for modern screen, it's not going to be a problem, but older screen, they might not be able to see that. Another quick thing, if you take a look at it, see the icons, how big they are right now? Because I zoomed the page like 500 times, uh, 500 times than the normal size. So the borders or the lines are very crystal clear. Part of the reason why you can see these differences is because your screen or the monitor, see these lines are visible like 2 pixel or 1 pixel depth. Now I think you can see the differences between the color of this line and that line, right? You can see the differences. So this is another reason why we are using lighter color for internal items or list items, and darker color for different columns. Now the thing that I was trying to explain it over here, since these icons are very small, if you see on desktop screen, this is what you will see. See, this icon looks very small. It's not all that understandable, but as soon as you start looking those icons from smartphones or iPads, they'll be like very much clear like this. Why? Because your screens on smartphones and iPads are much more brighter, clearer, and much more modern than the traditional monitors that we do use. So definitely they'll be a lot more vibrant and clear. Okay, let's get back to what we were doing. It looks very cluttered right now, very ugly, if you ask me. But this is the process of doing work. First thing is that we will convert it to. I mean, we are in the process already, as you can see on a smaller screen. It looks fairly okay, no problem whatsoever. Everything looks in line. You can tap on it and you can straight go to the article, no problem whatsoever. But we would have to make a little more changes so that after 480 pixel, we would have to style them over here for iPad and all those larger screens. So let's keep going, okay? See how exactly it looks right now, but as I'm talking to you, I'm going to show you some differences right now as I'm working on it. Let me show you real quick. So think of about the first row, these three columns on the first row. So let's fix it for screen size bigger than 480 pixel. Okay, bigger than 480, but smaller than 768. So you can use 480 or a little bigger. It doesn't really matter actually. Let me see how big the 768 looks like. 768. It doesn't look that great. Hmm. What we can do though, since we already have three column, break the first two column. I mean, keep the first two column and break the third one at the bottom. This way, I think it will look much better. But at 490, it actually doesn't look good. It doesn't look good at all. Let me see if I can break it like this. So instead of flex direction column, yeah, column looks better. Even at 490, I think column looks better. Uh, yeah, we can add some space on the right hand side and left hand side. That should be fine, just like the space at the top. But once it gets to, let me see, 700 pixel maybe. Let's change it over here, 700. That's when you can actually make two column. Okay, let me hide this all together, okay? Display, none. See, this two column looks fairly okay. We can squeeze this image a little bit more towards the left and can make some space for this. But the problem is, let me show you real quick. There should be an advertisement over here, right? If that is the case, that has to be minimum 300 pixel in width. So let me make it a little bigger. Let's see, width 300 pixel. Yeah, it doesn't look good. We would have to decrease the size for the first one a lot more. Um, let's do 300 pixel. Yeah, now the space gets a little bit more space to breathe actually. And for gap, we can add a gap of 20 pixel. 20 pixel. Yeah, a little bit of space is necessary in between this item. I mean, as far as Google's policy is concerned, in between advertisement and the content, there must be at least 20 pixel space. So even in here, you need to have like this margin bottom 20. Let's put 20 pixel, at least some space over here, so that somebody who is looking at this advertisement mistakenly does not click on, I mean, who are looking at this article links doesn't mistakenly click on this links from the advertisements. That's another policy that I need to follow for Google. Okay. For 700 pixel, it doesn't look good actually. Let me make it a little bigger. See, the more bigger it gets, the more reasonable it looks actually. Um, for 806 pixels, which means it's supposed to be the larger screen, uh, we can we can actually increase the size of this minimum large screen size. So the problem is modern screen breakpoints. So the other day I was looking at this website, and if you take a look at it over here, the common breakpoints. So from 0 up until 480, exactly the way we set it up over here. That's supposed to be smaller smartphone screens, right? Starting from 480 to 468, it's supposed to be tablets. Now this is where the territory gets a little overlapped. And definitely we do not need to worry about this 1280 plus for the larger desktops, because the maximum width of our content, this white block, is 1200 pixel anyway. So we are not worried about that section. we need three different breaking points. Now, when we are using these breaking points, it just doesn't look that great. What we can do is that instead of 480, we can keep it up until 768 would look like in a mobile. This is what I'm trying to say. Let me see. 768, right? So this is going to be the size of the screen for smartphone. I'm sorry, for tablets. So instead of doing this, let's block this code for a second so that you can understand what I'm trying to say over here. 600 and 680, 780, 768. What am I talking about? Okay. So refresh this page. See, this is what I'm talking about. If we keep the screen size up until 768, the same design for a smartphone and tablet, it looks very reasonable. But the problem is, it starts to become look a little odd when you have 768 pixels of space, but we are not using this space for a horizontal ad. And the categories over here looks really clumsy because 90% of the spaces are empty. One way to mitigate this issue could be make them look like internal block. Instead of block, it could be inline block. This is what I'm trying to say. Instead of making them one underneath the another, we can put them next to each other so that we have more space taken up over here than keeping them empty. But for article, I don't think we can do a whole lot because some of the article titles could be a little bigger. Like these articles are a lot bigger and should be okay with this kind of space over here. That should not be a problem at all. But it doesn't look good, to be honest, if you ask me. Let me see if I can go up until 600. Yeah, I think up until 600 it looks fairly okay. We would have to break it down to a different screen size, to be honest with you, because I was looking at this article last night and it says breaking points for responsive web design in 2024, which is supposed to be taken in consideration even in 2025. From that point of view, I was taking those breaking points as if, like, they are pretty much the standard. I mean, they're still standard, but, doesn't look good on certain websites. Now, this is a screenshot that they are sharing to give us a little bit of an idea that how exactly on smartphone it content should look like and how exactly it looks like on little bigger screens. Amazon India. Oh, well. Okay. So this is exactly there. I'm not quite sure why they are using 500 pixel over here. They wrote it over here like 481, 768. Why they are using 500 over here to give us an example? It just doesn't make sense. Now the four mobile devices that clearly mentioned over here, 480, small mobiles, landscape mode 600 pixels. So it seems like 600 could be our breaking points. I mean, merging this together, these two screen size for mobile device. This also means when I put max width 600 pixel, this basically means I'm taking from 1 pixel up until 600 pixel. This is the style that should be applied. And from 601 to 768, that's supposed to be for tablets. Okay, let's do this since they're doing that over here on within the example. Let's get rid of that. We're gonna have newer screen size. Okay, so minimum width for 600 pixel and the maximum is 768. So we are doing minimum width 768 and upwards. Interesting. They are doing 601 pixel up until 1024 and 1025 to 1280. So that means they are breaking down into so many screen sizes actually. Okay, this is the breakdown. Dang, that's so many screen sizes. I don't think we can do that. We will break it down to maximum three different screen sizes, and that should cover everything because our site is not all that big. They have 1280. We don't have to take it in consideration, this stuff. 1441, 1281, nah, we're not doing that. 1920, because my website size, the width of my site's content is 1200 pixels altogether. That means this white space, this meta section over here, this content section, and the sidebar, and the white space over here, all together it's 1200 pixel. So, well, there is no point for me to think about these stuffs anyway. Okay, so what we can do, we can follow 600 and 600 to 768. From 768 up until 10,000, we can do it like this: minimum width 700 and maximum width 1024 px. So this is going to be our, okay, so this is for a small screen, medium, large, and let's put it this way, this is for extra large. Okay, so that's supposed to be 1024 or 25 onward. So we can do it like this: media min pair width 10,024 pixel. That's it. We're not worried about the max width for larger screens, because regardless it's 1400 or 14,000, it doesn't really make any difference because our site is very small. Okay. All right, let's keep it like this and let's keep working on this. See if we can. Yeah, I don't think this is something important we should take a look at. This is where the problem started. Last night when I was reading this article, I was just keep focusing on this graph over here, or this screenshot over here, but I did not went down and read this section as well. Okay, so still that should not be a problem, since our mobile screen is 600 pixel. From another quick question, someone asked me when I was talking to them, actually, say why you are putting max width 600 pixel and min width over here for the next media query 600 pixel as well. The problem is this is for maximum width and this is for minimum width. See what happens if I do put 601? Let me show you. So let's say this is 600, which is exactly, this is what we're talking about here. If you do put 601, it breaks down. Did you see it? However, if you keep it 600, the transition is much more smoother. It doesn't make any big differences. Refresh. See, it's still following this size until unless it is more than 600 pixel, because we declared already maximum width supposed to be 600. So the minimum width next point on, or the breaking point, is supposed to be 601. But we're using 601 does not make the transition smoothly. If we do minimum width 600, the transition is much more smoother. It doesn't get any hiccup when you are looking at on 601 pixel. All right, let's keep working then. So the idea for medium sized screen, which is supposed to be 600 up until 760. Okay, let me show you the example. Let's say 599. We have mobile screen view. This is this one. Okay. Now for bigger than 600, if I do put 600, see what happens? Even at 600, it's still not catching this style. Why? It is because the maximum width of 600 pixel and minimum width 600 pixel still falls within that range. If you do 601, see it changes right away. It's because we mentioned over here that minimum width must be 600 pixel, could be 601, that'll be within the range of maximum width. So as soon as we put 601 pixel, it becomes on tablet size, or how do I say it? A little bigger than smartphone screen size. Okay, and notice what we did over here. I used a function over here called calc or calculation. What I'm trying to do over here, I'm telling the browser that this section on the right hand side must have 300 pixel because we want to place an advertisement over here. And whatever the space left over out of the entire width, that should be allocated for the news column for this one. So if the screen size goes like this, it will automatically increase the news section. Did you see it? The reason why it's happening is because we are keeping this column fixed. It's not going to increase or it's not going to shrink because we decided that it's supposed to be 300 pixel for the advertisement purpose, and that's why we did it 300 pixel over here. Flex 0 basically means we do not want this section to grow, just like the way we did for the news section, or we do not want this section to shrink either. We do not want it to grow or we do not want it to shrink. We want it to be 300 pixel fixed. That's part of the reason why this section never increased, even though our screen size is increasing. And this will continue up until the 768 pixel is the viewport. So let's go 700. See, what happened is that category shows up as soon as we cross the 768 threshold. Let me go back. 767, 768. There you go. Category shows up. Go back. Not no category is there. Why? Because of this declaration for the tablet screen. And as we continue to go, if the screen size is like 620 or whatever, it doesn't matter. It will adjust. The image size will adjust itself, but keeping the advertisement intact regardless whatever happens. Now, one important thing you should remember that you cannot have content like pretty much touching each other. There is supposed to be some kind of gap. What we can do, we can use gap over here, adding 10 pixel of gap. Just put 10 pixel, save, refresh. So there'll be 10 pixel of space regardless if the screen size grows or gets smaller, really doesn't matter. There'll be always 10 pixel. But 10 pixel is not a whole lot. Even if you have the advertisement next to this news item, 10 pixel space will still violate the terms and condition of the Google ad that there must be at least 20 pixel separation. So our base gap supposed to be 20. Now, it's not necessary that we would have to define 20 pixel of separation like this. What we can do, we can put little extra padding for this section. We can say, hey, we want to have 20 pixel padding over here, which we already defined. Let me show you if I can see it over here. Item spacing, element spacing over here, right? We can use that instead. So let's get rid of that 20 pixel, and then we can put top section padding, okay, like this. Padding left var element spacing. Okay. Now notice before I refresh the page, notice if I do put it over here, there is no purple line next to the thoughts section on the left hand side, right? But if you refresh the page right now, you will see that 20 pixel gap is gone, and if you put the thoughts section hover, there is a purple 20 pixel. That's basically pushing the content towards the left for 20 pixel. I think this is the safer bet. Part of the reason why I'm saying is that If we keep 20 pixel fixed padding all the time, regardless, whenever the screen grows or becomes smaller, it doesn't matter. It will be always pushing additional 20 pixel over here. And this way we can have a lot more control over um, the screen placement for these advertisements. I hope that makes sense. Okay, let's keep working on this. This is to show over here that the category section that we had, let's go back to the main site. The category section that we had, which was supposed to be next to the advertisement, we are pushing it down towards the bottom because this news section and the thoughts section is basically taking the entire space already. Excuse me, and we do not have any additional space for this one. One thing that I can do that I discussed about it a little earlier when I was talking about this responsive design for the news section is that instead of having them on a vertical manner, we can have it as a, like in a horizontal so that the category is going to be next to each other. This way, we would not be wasting so much space over here. And we can distribute that in a horizontal fashion rather than a vertical fashion. Once again, it's there's an empty space over here. We do not want to do that one. To do that, we would have to just simply modify them to be an inline block so that the history, general, and other categories can be next to each other. Let's work on that. If you notice carefully, this box's size seems to be uneven. The first one doesn't have that much height, just like the way the general is. It is because when we styled for widgets list, let me show you what I meant by that. It's supposed to be under widgets class. Okay. So um, H1LI span. Okay, not here. Let me see. See, this is where things got a little dodgy over here. We say it over here that if it is not let me check if it is just the one first last child. If it is not last child, border top, okay, padding bottom, okay, okay. Also look at this padding. Yeah, so this is the difference. If you take a look at it carefully for link item for categories, okay, for link item we have padding bottom like 8 pixel, but for the first one we wrote a condition that if it is not the first child, then add 8 pixel padding at the top if it is not the first child and there is a link item. So that basically applies to that one. What we have to do is override this condition when the screen size is a little over 600. Well, let me see if I can do that over here. For link item, we can do it like this, and a padding top 8 pixel important. Let me see if that resolves the issue. See, that fixed the issue. The reason why we did that, or I did that, let's go back to the first screen. So when this list item started, we did not need, or we did not need additional 8 pixel space at the top of books. Why? Because if I do that, then the space underneath the categories element, you see the yellow spacing at the bottom underneath the categories? That is space, and also the space for the first item. You see over here, there is no additional purple line. Let me show it over here. See, there is no additional purple line at the top of books. If I do that, then there will be more space in between the title over here and the first text. But notice over here, rest of the links, news, musics, or whatever the item we have additional white space over here. Part of the reason is that part of the reason is if we do hover over history, you see the purple line at the top as well. Because of this, the first item looks a bit smaller because this element or link element over here does not have additional purple line over here. So when we are looking at mobile screen and the text are in horizontal mode or not vertical mode anymore, we do not need that. We have to enforce in a way so that we would have additional for link item. We do have 8 pixel padding top for all the items, not only the first one, but for all the items. One thing we can do, but we do have pretty height over here. I don't think it does look good. What we can do, we can maybe reduce the height, overall height, because it doesn't look good. Because it seems like there is too much space at the top, but on the right and left there is not much breathing space. What we can do, see over here, okay, we can actually get rid of some of the space that we have over here. So instead of doing these, we can do it like 0, 10 pixel. It looks much more reasonable so that we do not have the purple section at the top over here, and at the bottom we're just gonna have 10 pixel space on the right hand side and on the left hand side. We can increase that a little bit just to make it look better. Okay, it looks nicer, much more nicer. It seems like we do have a lot more breathing space right now. So over here, instead of doing this, when we do right padding 10 pixel, it basically means we gotta have 10 pixel padding at the top, right, bottom, left, right? But when we break it down like 0 and 10 pixel, this is basically saying that we want to have 0 pixel on the top and bottom, and these 10 pixel stands for right hand side and the left hand side. So we do not want to have any padding at the top and bottom because that white space is being covered by the link item, the purple line over here already. We do not want any additional space. However, we still need some space over here on the left and on the right. Is it important? Yes and no, because we can entirely get rid of this padding altogether, right? And instead of, let me show you what I meant by that. So make padding 0. We do not need any padding whatsoever, okay? But instead of doing this over here for the link item, we can do it like this. Let's do 8 pixel, not 8 pixel, 0 by 15 pixel. Okay, let's refresh the page. We need a little more actually over here, maybe 10 pixel. So we can do it like this as well. See, we do not have the padding anymore at all for the list item. We just have straight padding for the link item, not for the LI item or the list item. So this way we would have entire box navigate linked, and if you click even in the white space, you'll still be able to navigate to the book's archive page. Let me click on it. See, we went back to archive books page. So this is the kind of modification that I'm talking about. Now we still need a little bit of space over here. You see, it's almost like touching over here. What we can do, this entire section, we can add 20 pixel margin at the top. So we can do it like this, margin top 20 pixel. Yeah, looks better. We can do even a little more if you think that will look nicer. Because remember, we would have not only the second news article, we would have at least 4 or 5 article over here, and we're gonna have 4 or 5 article on the thought section. I mean, you would have to think of about all the possible scenarios that you can think of, because definitely the way we are working right now, it seems like we do not have a whole lot of content to play around with this section to make it actually look how exactly it might look like. One way we can change this is simply just increase the number of news articles that we have. I think maximum we can do 4. So let's do 4 item. Let me increase that. News section, post. Let me do another news article. And then add more article on thought section. Okay, let's go back to the post. Remove the snippet, put them on thoughts, go back and put it on thoughts. Okay, so now you will get the idea what I'm trying to say. See, you have a lot more article. Maximum I think there's going to be 4. This is going to be the latest news article, and there will be additional 4 different article over here. So basically this ad goes here, it's gonna push down towards at least 250 pixel. So it's going to be like this, height 250 pixel. Sorry, it's supposed to be like this. And then you would have 3 different thoughts or 4 different thoughts article over here. So that basically equalize the entire section, and there would be an ad over here. So only then we can focus on the categories section over here, and we can put like margin top, I'm sorry, top 20 pixel. It would, need this actually, make it like this. And we can also add a border at the top to separate this 2 sections. So like this, border top var content con, it's supposed to be con border BO. Didn't work. Border top. What went wrong? Con border supposed to be a CSS variable over here on our system. Con. I'm sorry, it's supposed to be element border, not the con border. So it's supposed to be ELM. See, we would have a bar at the top, border at the top, separating these 2 sections entirely from here. And we can also add additional padding at the top, padding top, 20 pixel to give a little more breathing space over here. We can do the same for this section. Instead of doing padding top, we can do it like this. Padding 20 pixel 0. Now you have 20 pixel padding over here and 20 pixel padding at the bottom. Now you have a lot more breathing space, and then you can style the rest of the content as we move forward. So a little bit of hover effect should have been nicer, but anyway, I mean, we are not worried all too much about this right now. Our main focus is to just style the section in a way so that it can make readable, or the page is readable for mobile screen or tablets. Let me go back to the smaller screen and see what happens. See, we are going back to the style that we did for 600 pixel. This one, and then if we go bigger than 600, then it becomes like this. Definitely, most of the devices that we use nowadays, it doesn't have any fixed 600 pixel, to be honest. It could be a little over 680, 700, something like that, but regardless, it really doesn't matter. Okay, 768 would be our breaking point. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, this is the breaking point, 69. 768 up until that point, just like the way we declared over here, it should be fine. All right, let's fix some of those and then we will be moving forward. Okay, let's keep working. Let's add some articles on the lifestyle section so that we can actually compare in between these two how exactly it looks like. I think this way you would get a little better glimpse of the design itself. So we already know what's gonna happen for the news article section and thoughts article section. That's fine with us. What we're gonna do, transfer some of those articles to the lifestyle section so that we can at least test it out that how exactly it's going to look like. All right.